are live.
We are live. Good evening, everyone. Give me a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes. You know how we do. We're going to share. Y'all share with us. And then I will get with my guest for the evening. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Let me get to sharing. Whew, I feel like I've been running all day. Thank you to everyone for tuning in, spending your day. 810 News Media Group. We appreciate all of you. Every single last one of you. We see we had some people on here already waiting for us. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Can you see? Hold on. That's my phone. Let me see. Okay. Welcome. Y'all share too now. Y'all share while I'm sharing. We want to make sure everybody sees this show with the great Percy Glover. Percy. So excited to have Percy on.
Thank you.
I'm telling you. Let me keep going. Y'all know how we do it. About 30 more seconds and we'll get started because we know y'all will just come on in here and get to going. Thank you, Melissa. We know you're going to share. You my sister. That's my sister, Melissa. She's going to share with us. Like I said, if I had an assistant, Nikki hired me an assistant, I wouldn't have to keep doing this. But I got to do it all myself, Percy.
Oh, gosh.
They don't understand. I'll be trying. One day, though. One day.
One day for sure.
He going to put it in the budget.
All the way in the budget.
All the way in the budget.
Just not in 2024.
It's not in 2024? You never know, Mickey.
I know, but I'm going to let not in 2024.
Maybe in 2024 it'll be in the budget. 26 or 27.
Hey.
What? You know what? We'll talk about that tomorrow because I can't act ugly in front of my guest. Can't do that. All right. Let me pin it to the top of my page. Percy, you didn't share the show.
Oh, I'm sorry. What
You
did you do?
got to share the show. You got to go to 810 News Media Group and you got to share the show with all of your friends.
I've been on Facebook for like 4 weeks. So you know,
really?
Yes. So all of this is new to me. I see this on here. What do I need to do? So go here.
Yep, and just share. Go down there to that little arrow and just share. See? Share. Hit the blue button.
Oh, that's easy.
Boom. That was it. That's all you had to do.
See? Thanks for the tutorial. I did not know.
Good evening. Oh, somebody said it's Percy married. We're going to get into all of that. This ain't no hookup show.
Turning red.
What they did say it's right there in the comments. They said it's Percy married. Good evening from Florida. Good evening from Thailand. Good evening from Dallas, Texas. Everybody on here, good evening. Hey, everybody. So, everybody's saying, who is this? Let me tell y'all who it is, who we got here. I'm a little hot. Ending out Black History Month, I have Mr. Percy Glover.
And thank you so much for having me.
And I'm excited. Well, I'm very excited to have you on here and find out more about you. As you see, usually I come with a whole slew of questions, but we're just going to have a good conversation.
Of course.
And let the people know you, and you get to know our 810 family.
Of course. Thank you.
So, Percy, you have so many roles. Let me share some of them with the people. So, the first thing that I seen when I was making the flyer up, it said, if I can find it, hold on one second, Percy. find it in a second. Founder, Executive Director of Fair Voting Alliance,
Yes, ma'am.
Co-Executive Director of Community Engagement for the Genesee County Sheriff's Office,
Yes, ma'am.
Also voting rights advocate,
Of course.
and just a cool kid from Flint.
Just a cool kid from Flint.
So if you could break all of, is your mic on and everything? Is this mic on me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you could just break everything down,
Mm-hmm.
tell the people. Now we heard your official titles,
Okay.
but tell the people, who is Percy Glover?
Percy Glover is a brother, a friend, a dad of a 14-year-old son, a son to my mom I love to death, and again, just that cool guy from Flint that's all about Flint.
Okay.
Flint everything. You see me in the community, giving back in every way I can.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy way for me to put it.
Easy way.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about Fair,
Mm-hmm.
the founder of Fair,
Mm-hmm.
now explain to me and to our viewers what exactly is Fair.
Okay. Fair Voting Alliance stands for Free Access and Inclusive Rights.
Okay.
It is a nonpartisan 501c3 that I incorporated December of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it stemmed from a lot of different things. So, Janelle Allen Bay and I, we were doing regular voter registration at Flint Probation and Parole all the way up until COVID. And COVID forced us to stop that. From there, about 4.5, almost 5 years ago, Ashley Carter was then with the Advancement Project.
Okay.
And she reached out to me and said, "Hey, Percy, Genesee County Jail we see as a solid model where people should be getting registered to vote
Mm-hmm.
and casting their ballots from the jail."
Mm-hmm.
Now, with all of my personal and professional lived experience around jail, prison, probation, parole, I didn't realize at that time that people in Michigan who hadn't been sentenced can vote from jail. I didn't know that. So she organized a day, and we had a voter registration day. Myself, Janelle, Major Goo, who was then Captain Goo, Ashley Carter, who was then with the Advancement Project, and our then Genesee County Clerk, John Gleason.
Okay.
And we went into the Genesee County Jail, and we registered about 360, 70 people to get registered to vote.
Okay.
Moving forward, Janelle said, "Hey, Percy, we have a responsibility to continue this."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Well, I don't know what that looks like."
Right.
So I took it upon myself to do a lot of research. One of my dear friends, Shelly Belton from the Bureau of Elections, she was very supportive in that process of just understanding what this needed to look like. Fast forward to this past Tuesday. This past Tuesday for the presidential primaries marked the 13th straight election that I supported jail voting in the Genesee County Jail.
Oh, wow.
We had 47 people cast an absentee ballot from the jail.
Okay.
So that was pretty impactful. We are one of about 3 jails across the country where people are voting.
You said 3?
For about 3.
Wow.
Most consistently, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, forgive me.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a gentleman that is spearheading efforts in Colorado.
Okay.
And then there's an organization called Chicago Votes that does the same work at the Cook County Jail in Illinois.
Okay.
So clearly there needs to be more activation. Again, for specifically Michigan, if you have not been sentenced, if you are going through pretrial services, if you've been convicted and not sentenced, you can vote absentee ballot from a jail in Michigan, whether that's an in-person process or whether that's a by-mail process. That constitutional right has not been lost in Michigan. Laws vary from state to state.
Mm-hmm.
Some states you can't vote in the community as a convicted felon.
Right, and that's what I wanted to talk about today.
But for Michigan, if you have not been sentenced in a jail in Michigan, you can still vote as a convicted felon, whether on probation or parole in the community in Michigan. You can also vote.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
And see, that was a lot of confusion just on my part. Some of you may have known that, but I didn't know that. It was always assumed.
Of course.
If you went to jail, you can't vote anymore.
Of course.
And I'm like, I think you can. I'm sure you can,
vote,
but it's like, why not have someone on here that knows about that can tell our community, because we have a lot of people that has brushes with the law.
Of course.
And like you said, we have a nationwide audience, so it does vary state to state. So you will have to check, if you have relatives or someone, or you may have a little record yourself out there watching. But it varies.
And I have information broadly that I can share with you that you can share for viewers across the state that breaks things down from one state to the next.
Okay.
So yeah, I
Okay.
can share that with you. But one thing also we have to understand that not only our jail population in Michigan and other jails across the country, but we have quite a few pockets of people who need better support through the electoral process.
Mhm.
So that means our youth groups 18 to 24, whether they're at our local job corps, detention center, high school, colleges, or universities, our elderly who are in nursing homes
Mhm.
and senior citizens homes, our people who are ill and are in hospitals during elections,
Mm.
our homeless populations,
Mhm.
our parole and parolees that sometimes don't understand that as convicted felons in the community, we can still vote. So there's still a lot of pockets of people who need support through electoral process. But then also, I was on a Zoom today and I shared with people. I said, think about it. When do we get the information and education for us to internalize who, why, what to vote for from inside space?
Right.
When do we get that education?
Right.
When do we get the education to understand I'm voting for this candidate and I'm voting for this candidate because I understand
Mhm.
the personality, the characteristics, the resume that I should look for when somebody is campaigning?
Mhm.
We don't have broadly, civic education is not there.
Right.
For Black and brown and marginalized communities, it's a little different for us because most times everything is economic.
Mhm.
A lot of things we struggle with because 60% of Black America lives in poverty.
Right.
If I am impoverished, I could care less about an election because I'm
Absolutely.
struggling to pay my bills. I'm struggling to feed my children.
Mhm.
I'm struggling to pay rent. I could care less
Absolutely.
about an election.
Right.
But on the flip side of it, when we don't vote, there's an economic ramification.
Mhm.
Certain millages and dollars don't come to the community,
Right.
and obviously our government and processes around our government could be much better in supporting, again, Black, brown, marginalized populations and helping them with fiscal things,
Mhm.
obviously.
And when you think about Percy, like it's a big population of people of all races
Mhm.
that are behind bars.
Of course,
Um,
we're talking about roughly about 100 million people across the country that has experienced something around the judicial criminal justice system.
that could vote.
Exactly, and I say all the time that we galvanize those 100 million people. They all put $1 in a hat. That's $100 million, and that's 100 million votes.
Right.
That is powerful change right there.
Mhm. Why do you think that? And I know, like, I like to ask the history first, but I got to ask this question while I'm
Mhm,
thinking about it. Why do you think that people, let's just say our politicians,
mhm,
people that's seeking the vote,
mhm.
why do they forget about that forgotten community?
If we're talking about specifically people in jails in Michigan, that's just not common, well-known information. Most people, whether an elected official or a non-elected official or just a regular community member, they don't realize people in jail in Michigan can vote. That's
Mhm.
just not common understanding. And we need to obviously prod people who are campaigning and looking to become elected to understand where all pockets of potential voters are.
Mhm.
It's the elected official, it's the potential elected officials responsibility to know the community and let the community know them. That's
Absolutely.
part of the responsibility.
Absolutely agree.
Yes, definitely.
I agree. Now let's back up. Let's do
Yes,
some
please.
history. So, how did you get started in the political arena? Like growing up as a kid, was your family involved in politics? How
Yes.
did all of this happen?
So,
And again, for those of you that are joining late, this is Percy Glover. He wears many, many titles, and we're going to get through as much of them as we can today. But let's start off, and he's going to bring it up to where we are now.
I am going on my 21st year of release from prison. So I spent
Okay.
11 years, 6 months, 4 days in the Michigan Department of Corrections. When I got out back then, polar opposite of what you see today. You couldn't find a job. You couldn't find resources. You pretty much walked into a systemic place that, because there was no access on any level, you went back to doing what you did that sent you to prison most times.
Right.
And unfortunately, I found myself in that same space, struggling.
Okay.
I couldn't find a job. I'm lost. Didn't really have a plan of what I wanted to do when came back to the community. My only thing was I'm going back to college. I'm gonna wear a suit every day. Those are my two goals.
Okay.
Where employment lied for me, I didn't know. Primarily because I hadn't had any experience. I went to prison young. I got out. I'm 32, almost 33. I hadn't experienced anything. I didn't know where my passion lied. So from there, odd jobs, work study student at my college, working on my associate's degree. And as I went through the process of getting a associate's degree, getting a bachelor's, getting a master's, having all these different job assignments, there was one space that just kept falling back into my lap. People who had experiences like mine, whether it was Paul Jordan at the time, he was the head of the social work program at mine, said, "Hey, Percy, I got a guy in a similar situation as yours. I need you to talk to him."
Right.
Whether I was working in my community college workforce development department, and it was somebody saying, "Hey, Percy, here's someone with similar experience. Can you talk to them?" Me, I'm not understanding that as I'm going on my journey professionally and personally, that as I'm working at General Motors, my community college, the short time at the University of Michigan Flint, State Appellate Defender's Office. I worked at Flint Parole, where I had a cubicle about 10 feet from my former parole officer.
Wow.
I'm not understanding that as I'm going through all these things, that I'm creating a new standard. I'm honestly just trying to find a way to make it and survive and take care of myself, not considering it's not often that somebody gets out of prison and works at a college.
Right.
It's rare to impossible that somebody works at a parole office. I'm creating a new standard for people who are coming back to the community without realizing it. And then finally one day I woke up like, this is the space you're supposed to be in. This is why it keeps falling into your lap. Embrace it. Part of me embracing it is why I work at the sheriff's office. You know, it's part of that sacrifice to show not only for people returning back to the community after jail and prison, but help create a safer Flint. You know, we've seen things across the country like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, that I feel comfortable enough to say that I don't think that will ever happen in the Flint community. It's possible.
It is
It's
possible.
very possible. Because at the end of the day, we're all human and we all make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So being that cog in the machine as a connector for the sheriff's office and the community is important. You know, it's always important to have credible messengers that can provide a credible message to the community. Sheriff Swanson being a white sheriff that works for the county seat, Flint, that is a predominantly black and brown community. Not to minimize his understanding or his courage or all of his ability, but sometimes that connection between him and those black and brown marginalized communities isn't a natural one.
Break it
You
down.
know,
That's right.
Black people, we have our own innate hesitation and paranoia about people, especially other races. We don't have to understand, are you sincere? Are you authentic? Do you have our best interests at heart? Are you here to utilize us for political ambition? Are you here to use us for monetary gain? Are you here today and going tomorrow? So having, again, a Percy or even a Jonell or a Wyntis as those credible messengers to connect people for the betterment of our community is so important.
Right. And I do, you mentioned Breonna Taylor.
Yes.
That was the last time, well, probably was the only time me and May's ever been somewhere together.
Yep, you met the founder of Taylor May Reentry, the sister. Yep,
right.
One of our partners.
Dee.
Yes, ma'am.
And you put on that event?
Well, Deandra, she applied for an MTV grant for Mental Health Awareness Action Day.
Okay.
So we did a mental health awareness activity in the jail where we supported all 580 participants in the jail. Primarily, people come into a jail already struggling mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and behaviorally, most times because of economics, because they were doing things to support themselves the wrong way or out of desperation. They go into the jail, and now all of those things are heightened. It's well documented that jail and prison does something to you terribly, mentally and emotionally.
Right.
That affects you behaviorally. So most people are coming back to the community sooner than later from jail. 1 to 2% people die in a Michigan prison. Wow. So even for those leaving the jail, going to a prison, most are going for a short time, and a smaller percentage is going for a very, very long time. and even a very tiny percentage is dying there. So for the 70 to 80% of people that comes to the jail on an annual basis are going back to the community sooner than later. So that day was monumental because we want to address and impact the mental health for those people going back to the community, because at some point they're going to be our neighbors.
Right.
And we want our neighbors to be successful, have the same level of curb appeal as homeowners as us, be able to take trips and take care of their family, because that provides a safer for community for us all.
Right.
You know, it's not one-sided about, and we had to get away from the space of people going to jail and prison and becoming a black sheep, because they're coming back to the community. So primarily that event was to support mental health for people in jails, as well as address suicide attempts.
That was a beautiful event too, by the way.
Thank you so much. Suicide is one of the highest, especially for young people in the community, highest leads to death. And for our jail and prison population, it's a pretty significant number. So, you know, we want to address all of those mental challenges and struggles for people in jails, because again, they're coming back to our community sooner as opposed to later.
Right. So do you I'm loving not I'm loving, but I love the way that you took your obstacles that you faced early in your life and you turned it around into something positive and making a positive impact on other people.
Thank you.
And like you said, it kept falling in your lap, and therefore you started walking in your purpose.
Yes, definitely.
And I appreciate that, because it was always assumed. And I see the comments. A lot of people is like, you know what? We didn't know we could vote. You know, it's like once you get out of jail, a lot of people, and that's just keeping it real. You know me, Percy. A lot of people think when they get out of jail, I can't vote. I can't do anything. I don't have any more rights.
Of course.
And we're not told any differently. So to hear that is that the Genesee County Jail is one of less than 10 across the United States that actually lets people exercise their right to vote. That's very touching.
And I say a few that is consistently and have consistently been doing this over the last 3-4 years. Let me say that. There are other jails where things happen in Michigan not consistent enough. So don't let me say that there's not other jails when we're talking about Washtenaw County, Wayne County, or Oakland County, or Kent County, that voter registration is not happening, because it does. Not saying that absentee ballot collection doesn't happen, because it does, but it needs to be a consistent, regular process from election to election when it's available, and it's a constitutional right. That's different. In Michigan, it's a constitutional right that has not been lost for people in jail that have not been sentenced.
How long has this program been going on inside the Genesee County Jail?
So we had a granny moment. And I say it's my granny moment because I have to go back and find the link and look for you. 4.5 years ago, we made Good Morning America, because at that time, voting in jails really wasn't happening anywhere. And I just call it my granny moment because that's one of the moments. My mother's mother, she always just so like hard, like get it done, no excuses. And that was the moment for me where I'm like, okay, she has to be proud of this, because we made national media for something that I don't even know how I made it to them. Somebody like, dude, you know, y'all made Good Morning America. I'm like, what? I could almost cry, like, wow, we come a long place.
That's amazing.
I've come a long place in regards to those early days of getting out of prison. Like, wow, like, okay, we are really, really changing the scope and the landscape of how things are handled for people who are incarcerated in jails. So it was a touching moment for me.
That's a very proud moment.
Thank
you.
you.
Very proud moment. So do you follow the trail once they get out and make sure that they're still engaged in the voting process? Do you have people coming back to find you and like, you know, like, what do I do now? How can I help you? How can I assist you?
So there are, again, a lot of resources, a lot of tools, a lot of people, a lot of orgs now that assist people re-entering the community after jail and prison. I'm one of them. I see people all the time. Like, I might see somebody in the jail and I see them at the gas station or grocery store. Like, dude, I need a job. I'm like, just call me. Here's my number.
Right.
Like, it's just that simple. Just call me. Or I'll say, reach out to this particular group or person because maybe I'm not heavily focused on employment services like I was when I worked at Mott. That's not something I do as much today. So I may not have as many resources or as many employers in my hip pocket. So sometimes I may be able to just pick up the phone and make a call and say, hey, it was somebody that needs a job, or refer them to somebody that can be that connected to employment. But yes, I see people in the community all the time.
Okay.
You know, we still Flint. We love our city.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, we love our city.
Just a little dot on the map, but we still love our city.
It's a big dot for me.
Right.
It's a big dot.
So what else? What else does Percy Glover do?
What else? So again, pretty interesting. As a formerly incarcerated person, I work at a local sheriff's office. I've also worked as a contractor for the National Sheriff's Association. It's really interesting because I say all the time, people like, because I typically have my pocket badge on.
Right.
So when
and you know what black people say? You work for the popo.
So it's funny, right? So when I saw you in Benton Harbor, I can't remember if it was that Saturday or that Friday. It might have been that Sunday, whatever day it was. But I stopped at the local gas station. Probably being out of town, I probably shouldn't have stopped at this gas station. But we from Flint. We
don't care. We gonna stop. Right.
So I go in the gas station and I have my pocket badge on. And a lot going on in the parking lot of the gas station. You see packages of weed, it's legal. So, you see big
everything,
packages, being going from car to car. And one of the guys stopped me. He said, dude, you got a badge on. He's like, what do you do? I said, well, I'm gonna give you the short story. I am a formerly incarcerated person that works at the sheriff's office in Flint. I don't do patrol. I don't arrest. I don't do custody in the jail. I say my job is to take lemons and make lemonade. So that means do what I can to create healing among racial issues in our community, between the law enforcement, the sheriff's office specifically, and the community, and create that healing for us all to be better as a unified group. He was like, dude, what?
Oh, wait a minute. We having some technical. Okay.
Oh, we can keep going?
Yeah, we can keep going. They can still hear us. Mickey, shouts out to ATN News Media Group and the greatest producer in the world, Mickey Jordan. We're just having a couple difficulties here, but we're going to keep going. Okay, so we back. See, that was quick. Make sure. Let me adjust my crown. There we go. Now, when you talk, I'm glad you said you brought up Benton Harbor. In a couple of weeks, I'm having Trenton on.
Oh, yeah, I love Trenton. He's a good guy.
So when I heard him speak and I seen you there, I'm like, oh, where Percy at? Where Percy at? Because
and he's doing some cool things at Benton Harbor.
He is. And it's like, I think this is what Percy does in Flint, a lot of this. And that's what, I reached out to you immediately, like, Percy, I need to get you on the show.
So it's interesting you say that, because it's been very busy, and we just come up on March. I've been in Benton Harbor, Pontiac, Saginaw, Kalamazoo multiple times, Detroit, Lansing, Grand Rapids, as well as other areas across outside of Michigan, Memphis, Charleston, South Carolina. Charleston, South Carolina. I got it right. Anyway, a lot of different places. But anyway, my point is, I tell people, I said, especially for the Black community, it's important we work across city and county lines, because number one, we create a healthier Michigan. Number two, we create more resources for us that traditionally and historically has been missing and lacking. It's important to work across state lines, because it does the same thing. It empowers us, because as a unified group, we create more resources, understanding, and education. So it's great that, and I love the timing of when I met Trenton and everybody else in Benton Harbor, because it showed me that God put people in the right places and the right spaces at the right time.
Right.
He has a vision for things he want to do, and some things I'm already doing. So it's an easy connection as I support him, and he continues to encourages me to continue doing what I'm doing. So God put the right people in front of you at the right time, so you can continue the mission of the work.
And I said it was crazy. I had to go all the way to Benton Harbor to learn more about Percy.
Right
here in Flint. You know what I'm saying? To get you to come on. But that was a beautiful, beautiful summit. The Black Summit that he put on.
It was excellent.
Like I said, in a couple weeks, Trent will be joining us here.
And I saw you got Minister Troy Muhammad coming too.
Yes, he will. this will be his second time coming
Okay.
back on the platform. So Minister Muhammad will be here next
And I
week.
seen you got Sherry Gay coming too.
Okay, let me get it right. So
Trenton,
I got
Troy,
Minister
then
Muhammad
Sherry.
next week, and then Trenton the week after that, and then Sherry the week after
Okay.
that. All dynamic
Very,
speakers.
very dynamic and very
All
genuine
them
and
been
sincere.
right,
All
right.
yeah, all genuine and very sincere.
hmm
Very knowledgeable as well.
Very,
Very
very
knowledgeable.
knowledgeable.
You got a great team of people coming to hang out with you.
I know, and I can't wait for the viewers, to
They're gonna
engage
love
with
it.
them.
They will absolutely love
Well,
it.
they looks like you know what, they loving everything that you talking about on here too. Now, do you get a lot of oh, here's a question real quick from Anna. Got a question. Does the funding come out of public safety budget for returning citizens?
So does it come out of public safety? So typically when we talk about public safety, we're talking about our local police departments.
Mhm.
So I'm not quite understanding the question, but Michigan Department of Corrections, they have something that's called offender success that are specific for people returning to the community after prison that is associated and a connector with most times the pro agent. They're the first initiator. I think currently Catholic Charities has the contract locally for offender success, which is the RFP.
Okay.
So request for a proposal.
Mhm.
So just like any nonprofit agency, they'll apply when when the request for proposal becomes open again.
Okay.
So the funding can come from a lot of different places. It just kind of depends. Sometimes I know DHHS, they had some peer to peer mentoring dollars that were available. So it just kind of depends on, you know.
She's saying, so in DC, the budget that covers police and public safety retention and returning citizens are under that budget.
So when DC, the budget that
Here
covers
in
police.
DC, because that's where she's from, the budget that covers police and public safety retention and returning citizens are under that budget.
So again, for Michigan, a lot of that offender success dollars are one of the bigger pieces of funding that supports people returning to the community after prison. That's not specific to jail. That's after prison.
Okay.
And again, there are some other cogs in that support system, like Department of Health and Human Services and some other orgs that support reentry on the prison side.
Okay. Now, do you how do you get someone that's incarcerated? Because, like you said, you incarcerated.
Mhm.
You go through mental challenges,
Go through a lot. Loneliness, depression.
right? And
Go
you
through a lot.
telling me I can vote and help change things. Do you get pushback
Of
from?
course.
So how do you what do you say to motivate them? Because I know a lot of people
Mhm.
that are out here that are done their time, finished their parole,
Mhm.
but they won't vote.
So when you look at voter motivation or the lack of voter motivation, it's really similar for people in jails as it's the same way for people in the community.
Okay.
Lack of familiarity of the candidates
Mhm.
is a big reason. If I don't know who I'm voting for, why would I vote?
Right.
Voter economics, voter currency, or lack of voter economics and voter currency is a big piece of it. Again, if I am impoverished or if I'm just broke as a joke, I don't care nothing about an election.
Mhm.
Lack of understanding from a civic education is a really big piece for all populations of people.
Mhm.
I have not learned how to identify the best candidate that aligns with my understanding for what I need as a community member and identify them and internalize how to identify them based on their personality, characteristics, agenda form, and resume.
Mhm.
We've never been taught how to understand how to pick out a candidate. When
You're
have we
right.
ever learned that?
We haven't. We haven't. And you
Where
talking to
do
me.
where did we ever get this checklist? Like these are the things you need to look for when you're thinking about voting for someone.
Mhm.
So that civic and that missing piece of civic education is also a huge piece. All of these things are comparable to people in jails as well as our outside people who are in the community. The same missing information, the same lack of understanding, the same emotional, mental, behavior struggles I have that stems from economics are the same for both sides of the fence. It's the same. And I've learned that, and it took me a while to understand that. So one of the first impactful moments for me, John and I were doing voter registration at Flint Probation and Parole. And the gentleman had no idea who our current mayor was at the time.
Mm.
Had no idea. When I said the name, they were like, "Who are you talking about?"
Right.
Because it was a mayoral election coming up in a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to myself, I said, well, if I'm struggling financially,
I
that
don't
means
care.
I'm struggling
Right.
physically because I'm
Right.
probably not eating well.
Right.
If I'm not eating well, I'm probably struggling mentally.
Right.
I'm also struggling emotionally because I'm not financially, mentally, emotionally okay. But then I'm also struggling with everything about life in general that is probably forcing me to do some things that I wouldn't do if I had a legitimate, strong paycheck to take care of myself. So I could give two flying whatevers about who the mayor is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling internally and externally with life, period.
Right. You want me to? You telling me I need to vote?
I
Right.
can't even feed myself tonight.
Right.
Vote for what?
Right.
Not can't feed myself tonight, but I don't know how I'm gonna feed myself for the next 6 months.
And Lord forbid, I got a family at home I got to take care of. Right.
So people, again, and I was just on the call saying that we need to meet people where they are to help understand how to build them up to get to a place to be successful in everything, even voting, because that's not something that we look at or describe as a successful thing when it can be.
Right.
Because again, if I don't have the education, if I don't have the information, if I don't even know who I'm voting for, I'm not voting.
Right.
And I think it's okay to describe not voting as a fail. I think that's okay.
It is.
And I
And
think,
it is a fail.
but we have everything we need to build a person up to, again, be successful in accessing the electoral process or accessing the ballot. We have everything we need.
Right.
We just have to be better at looking at those groups of people and those pockets of people and meeting them where they are. For example, when we talk about young people, it's probably not healthy to tell a young person, oh, and I'm not saying this to be ignorant by far, but it's
No.
probably not fair to say, well, your grandmother and your great grandmama, they almost died in the civil rights movement to give you an opportunity to vote. What does that mean to a 20-year-old?
Nothing. And
Legitimately,
we're not being funny,
we're
but it
not
doesn't mean anything.
because they can't
Right.
understand what that means.
Right.
So until you have a conversation that is relatable for them, and I'm not minimizing civil rights
Absolutely
or
not.
our forefathers or foremothers that died or hoes
You
or did
just
what,
keeping it real, Percy.
you have to meet people where they are. If I'm 20, I can't relate to something that happened in the 50s.
Right.
If I'm 20 years old, I actually probably don't even want to listen to you.
Right.
And if I'm 20, I probably want to be heard just as much as you want to talk to me. I also have an opinion and want that opinion to be shared and voiced. So that's just one example of meeting people where they are, just accepting where they are and not always trying to hit people in the head with information because that comes off as the Mr. Know-it-all or the Mrs. Know-it-all. Sometimes just ask a question. That can take you a lot further.
Absolutely.
And I've learned that when my son was small. You know how little kids just ask why
all
over
the
and
time.
over.
Right.
But to any problem, if you ask why a handful of times, I bet you about got that problem fixed.
You're right.
Just ask why 6, 7 times. Damn, the solution right there.
Right there. I figured it out.
Figured it out. And the same way with people. You can't assume a person can receive information that you can, that in the way you present it. Sometimes first do a little, hey, how you doing? What and where is your thinking about voting? And if they say nowhere or I don't have any information, then there's an opportunity to understand where to start the conversation.
Right.
You can't assume how to start a conversation by just looking at a person.
Right. If you don't know where they at, like you said.
You gotta understand where they are.
Right. So when I think about just right here, Genesee County Jail. On an average, and I'm not gonna hold your feet to the fire, but what's the total number or just a roundabout number of people do we have in the county jail that's waiting to be sentenced that can vote?
So this go around, the max capacity, if there's no overcrowding for the jail, is 580.
Okay.
The jail numbers are lower than it's been in a very, very long time. Last count I had was, I think, 504.
Okay.
So that's amazing in itself.
Okay.
Again, we had 47 absentee ballots that were submitted
I
to.
see you already know where I'm going.
Right.
Okay.
We had 47 absentee ballots that were submitted to. One was to Flint Township. The other 46 was submitted to City of Flint Clerk's office.
Okay.
We had 5 people who were interested that got sentenced. We had like 7 people who were interested that would have voted that got released. We had some challenges with the mail system. For example, I took some ballots to Davison. There's 3 different clerk's offices in Davison.
Okay.
So yes. So there are 28 clerk's offices across Genesee County in total. So it's those other clerk's offices that I'm not deputized, because I'm deputized to be able to hand deliver ballots to the Flint City Clerk's office to and from City of Flint Clerk's office.
Okay.
For those other ones, there are, on the backside of an absentee ballot application, there is a designation where it says a friend, family member, or someone else designated to handle the ballot for you can submit the application, and vice versa for the ballot. So for those that I submitted like Monday before the election, again, Davison, et cetera, they got lost somewhere in the mail. So we had about 12 of those that they might have just hit the jail today, probably,
Right.
because of the mail system. So the number dwindled because of, different reasons. Then we had, because this was a different election, you had to choose an official affiliation to whether Democrat or Republican.
Okay.
That kind of threw people, it made people feel weird,
Mm-hmm.
because some people were just torn, honestly, not to get into this capacity of conversation, but some people were just conflicted. I don't know if I want to vote for Trump. I don't know if I want to vote for Biden.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to choose Democrat. I don't know if I want to choose Republican.
Mm-hmm.
So we had about 15 people that at the last second, like, I'm not interested, because, they were going through their own turmoil, because they were conflicted. They didn't know who they wanted to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
So that number, again, potentially was slightly more than 100 people that were more than likely going to cast a ballot, that just dwindled for a lot of reasons that were out of my control.
But sitting here thinking, Percy, and thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Being in politics,
Mm-hmm.
being in the political arena,
Mm-hmm.
I still got this number of 500 plus in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Waiting,
Mm-hmm.
not sentenced,
Mm-hmm.
can vote.
Mm-hmm.
500 people can change an election.
Locally, yes. City, yes.
Yes,
100%.
locally is what I'm saying.
Maybe not as much as a county election, but a city elections, definitely.
Do you have candidates breaking down? I mean, I would be, Mr. Glover, I need to come in and talk to the people. Do you have, are they scared? I wouldn't say necessarily scared, but do the candidates even consider?
Yep. We've had candidate forums in the jail.
Okay.
So the first candidate forum, I'm always thinking about how to push the envelope to be better for the community.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like, what can we do next? I'm like, candidate forum. We bring the candidates to the jail. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to tell you the story, the conversation I had with other folks, but
okay.
So long story short, we've had, I can't remember, 6 or 7 candidate forums where, again, to address that lack of familiarity of the campaigners. Mm-hmm. People are not going to vote for people they don't know. Mm-hmm. People are not going to vote for people they have no idea who they are. Mm-hmm. So in jail, when we talk about access, it's heightened in jail. You don't have social media. You don't have newspapers. You don't have magazines. You don't have the ability to get up and go to a clerk's office or pick up the phone and call the clerk's office to find out what is on the ballot. Mm-hmm. So to address the educational piece, we brought the candidates into the jail. We've had to meet the candidates forums with city council, mm-hmm. Where sadly enough, Councilman Mays attended and others. We've had the last one meet the judicial candidate, where we had 2 people were campaigning for a local 7th Circuit seat.
Lord have mercy. You mean the inmates had to sit there and listen to the judges?
So this is interesting. Let me
Oh,
finish
yeah,
first.
yeah. Let's
So
finish this.
3 people who were campaigning, 3 of the 5 people were in attendance that were campaigning for Michigan Supreme Court Justice, and 3 people who were campaigning for Michigan Court of Appeals attended. So we had 8 people. Now I tell people, when you look at a Supreme Court Justice or you look at a judge in a Court of Appeals seat, those roles 100% are specific to not anybody in this room. I'm so far retired from the judicial prosecutorial process.
Right.
Somebody in jail has a very invested interest who becomes a Michigan Court of Appeals judge.
So do.
Somebody in jail has a very invested interest in who becomes a Michigan Supreme Court justice.
Yes, they do.
So it was very important for the folks in the jail to understand these roles don't really have no effect on Percy's life. Now, a local judge, yes. Supreme Court Justice, Court of Appeals, no, because I'm not going through the court process again or ever again. I don't live that type of lifestyle anymore.
Right.
But for people in jail, those roles are really specific to them. But also you have to understand that's the piece where you get people motivated to vote when they understand how and why it's specific to them. Same way in the community. When you explain to a person, well, you're complaining that the road is not fixed or there are potholes in the street, but you didn't vote and that millage wouldn't pass to repair the streets. Now, it's one thing if you didn't understand or know about that millage, but once you know and you still didn't take the steps to vote, whether you opposed it or you were in favor of it, whatever the case is. But you can, but you shouldn't complain about something you had control over.
Right.
But unfortunately for us, Black people in the community, we don't even know most times. That's the unfortunate thing. So us voting for something that benefits our community is not even the struggle. The struggle is we don't know or understand, or sometimes when we do, it's too late.
Right.
And that's not a knock against anybody saying people at a large are misinformed. I'm saying people of all races and ethnicities, we all need to be better educated around civic engagement, registration, the electoral process, the ballot process, the people.
Absolutely.
Especially the people, because people as voters, we have to understand if I am a voter, I am that person's employer. They don't get employed without my vote.
Absolutely.
So if you have voted for somebody and somebody from the office is never calling you back, you don't see them in the community, they don't know you, you don't know them, you might want to think about who you vote for the next time.
Absolutely.
Because you want to vote for somebody that has a vested interest in you and the community you live in.
Now, the only way to vote in jail, is it just by absentee, or do you guys actually have voting stations in the jail?
Currently, how things are set up through legislation is only by absentee ballot process.
Okay.
So there was no early voting for jail because there's no early voting stations in a jail. There's no polling stations in jail. There's just absentee ballot process. Again, that can be through a mail process, which can be unfortunately glitchy at times because the backlog, maybe at the post office or maybe even the mail room at the jail. So it's better to have an in-person process where you have somebody designated to be able to take the ballots to the clerk's office and bring them back.
What about the people that's on work release? You still have that, like where they're able to get out?
So we don't have a work release program anymore. So work release
I didn't know that.
primarily because of contraband. Staffing issues. It just makes it, and not having enough staff and not enough personnel just makes it tough when you have work release because people are bringing things back into the jail.
Okay. Well, see, I learned something today.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. So, what else can you tell us?
What else you want to talk about?
We just getting ready. We getting to know Percy. So we got through working. You got involved with the sheriff department, the fair voting.
Alliance, yes.
What else? What else?
Something I don't talk about that I probably should be better. I don't know if it's modesty on my part. I'm also an author. Concrete Lies and Abstract Truths. You can find it on Amazon, or you can just give me a call. I got hard copies at home.
Okay.
I call it poetic self-therapy. It's a collection of poems, short stories, and writings that I developed while in prison.
Really?
And my sister, about I think about 2018, she started saying, write a book, write a book. And I'm like, no, I'm not writing a book. She's like, well, you have all these things you wrote while in prison. She's like, just put them together. I'm like, no, 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 no. And God rest her soul, she passed away to stage 4 cancer, liver cancer, last summer.
Oh,
Thank you. Finally, she twisted my arm hard enough to say, okay, let's do this. And everything except the back cover and the introduction, everything else was written while I was in prison.
Mhm.
So a lot of it is extremely old. Keep in mind, again, I've been out of prison going on my 21th year now.
Mhm.
A lot of it was written in a totally different mental space and thinking.
Mhm.
But one of the things about the book, which is 84 pages, I read a lot in prison like most people.
Right.
I'm reading 3-4 books a day. So with that, I had to be really creative because I didn't want to sound like anybody else. Even with the title Concrete Lies and Abstract Truth, people are like, what does that mean? A play on words to understand what's reality, what's not, what's fake, what's real, et cetera, et cetera. But I had to really challenge myself to not write in a way that sounded like anybody else. So I believe it's a pretty unique and creative read that is enjoyable. Again, if I just being honest with myself and just being very hard on myself, if I had opportunity, I probably would scrap and do it over. But that's just me being overly critical.
Right.
That's just how we are as individuals. But it's a pretty interesting read.
I want to get the books. I want to support you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep, you can find it on Amazon. You can search my name, and the title is called Concrete Lies and Abstract Truths. Or you can reach out to me. I'm on social media now. So reach out to me on social media, whether Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. Reach out to me, and I can provide you a copy as well.
It was a question from Concrete Lives and Abstract Truths.
Yep, Concrete Lies and Abstract Truths.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure I took a mental note of that.
Thank you.
It was a question by one of our it's gone now, but I wrote it down. Do you mentor ex-felons?
Oh yeah, all the time. All
Okay.
the time. All the time. To whom much is given, much is required. It's part of my responsibility to give back to people who have experiences like me, but people in general. I mean, I say all the time, my worst experiences are my best education to service people.
Mhm.
I had to learn to lean in to everything that were not favorable experiences because I got so much from them. I learned so much. I grew from them. I think sometimes as people, me included, we want to run away from our bad experiences.
Right. Right.
Sometimes it's why certain things keep happening because we
Mhm.
run away from it and we don't learn from them.
Mhm.
But once I finally embraced all of, and I'm not saying this to be insensitive because just being very honest, I am a violent offender. Someone shot at me and my friends and we retaliated. So I'm not glorifying my choices or my reaction to being shot at and going and retaliate. That's not what I'm doing at all. Because if I could, I cut my left hand off to change those spirits, to change those experiences. Unfortunately, I can't.
Right.
But on the flip side of it is my responsibility to learn from them and empower others as I learn from myself and help others.
It's a lady on here that she's looking for someone to mentor her son who's kind of he's having difficulty navigating through life. Do you bring teenagers in and tell them like, look, this is jail, this is what can happen,
Mhm.
it's a different path that you can take? Do you mentor young people?
Of course. So I did a gun violence town hall with Don Jones in I think that was September, October, I can't remember, last year. And one of the things I shared is that with men of color, especially black men, we aren't taught how to de-escalate a moment.
You know what, Percy? That's say that again.
We are not taught how to de-escalate a moment. We have only been taught and trained to defend ourselves.
Somebody hit you, hit them back. That's all we was taught.
But that thinking and those themes have carried and developed too high
Mm-hmm.
because it's not even a punch. Sometimes it can be a word,
Mm-hmm.
and we feel like we need to retaliate in words when we need to learn how to de-escalate the moment. You know, since my son was born, I'll tell him and continue to tell him, son, children fight, men talk, men talk, men have a conversation. That's how we should address things as adults. But we're not taught that. You know, so a lot of for what me and what I share with young people is, again, primarily listening and asking questions, but also tearing down some of those traditional teachings and learning, because they weren't healthy for us, honestly. It's not healthy to say fight back. It could be a lot healthier to say, dude, just walk away.
Right.
It's not that serious.
It's
Just
not
walk
gonna
away.
make you look weak. You know, so
And it
many,
takes a
like,
lot of strength to be able to walk
yes,
away.
yes,
Because if I do like this, your natural reflex is going to be like,
right,
so it takes a lot of discipline and restraint to just get out. If I do like this, for you to just get up and just get out that chair and walk out the room. That shows a level of greatness as opposed to you punching me,
right, right.
because it's not, that level of greatness is not common. And that level of greatness needs to be more consistent, especially among Black men,
Absolutely.
and how we respond to things.
How did you develop that way of thinking?
Time.
Time.
A lot of time.
A lot of
A
time.
lot of time.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, I had a moment last summer. I'm talking a lot. I had a moment last summer at the gas station, and as I'm coming out the gas station, I'm on my phone, and I hear somebody slightly at a distance that's cussing, going crazy. And I'll go to the pump, put my gas, and the dude like, mother, whoop yo, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, man, what's wrong with that guy? Oh my, he's talking about me.
Oh, damn.
What I do?
Right.
I go in the gas station like an idiot. As soon as I walk in the gas station, he flipping out. He like, don't come near me, blah, 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 threatening me. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like trying to think quick on my toes. How am I going to handle this? He's still just like, I'm a and as I'm processing, like, okay, I can knee him right here and punch him right here, and it's over.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, stop thinking like that. So I said, excuse me. So I told him, excuse me. Went to the register and said, put 60 on that pump that this gentleman right here is at. And whatever is left, could you make sure it goes in the car behind this gentleman right here? The dude like, man, you ain't got to do that. I say, dude, it's my job to take lemons and make lemonade. We all gonna drink a glass of lemonade today. You fill your car up, what's not going in there, give it to the guy behind you.
That's real.
And to do whatever's bothering you, let it go, man. It is not that serious. And I think for me, that was the final step in a place that said, you're learning how to walk away. I'm not gonna say I'm completely there, because if Wyntis just slapped me right now, I might slap her back. I'm just being, you know.
Damn, Percy.
No.
Right.
I'm being silly, but I'm just saying I might not be completely there where I can walk away from literally everything and everything, but I think I'm real close, because I understand now the impact of that guy was just having a bad day.
Right.
And the funny thing is, his friend that caught me outside, like, man, I don't know what's wrong with him. He been acting like that all day. I don't know what's bothering him. I don't know what's going on. But man, thank you, man, because it clearly made him feel better. Dude couldn't stop smiling afterwards.
See.
And sometimes, again, we don't understand that the greatest power in the world over everything is love.
That's it.
That's the greatest power in the world. God gave his
Only begotten Son.
Love is the greatest power we have. It is the greatest tool we have. If we lead with that, we have such much better community. Smile.
Right.
Say hi. Lead with things from a loving space. We all are in a much better place.
Right.
And it took me time, again, having to move away from traditional teaching, fight back. That don't really make sense. That didn't get me nowhere. Right. Part of the reason I ended up in prison.
For 11 years, you said?
6 months, 4 days. Someone shot at me and my friends. I retaliated when I could have walked away. Nobody was hurt. Nobody caught a bullet. I could have walked away. You learned it the hard way, though, which is unfortunate for our young men. But your initial question was, do you mentor? And yes, definitely. And please, audience, I'm only being silly. If Wyntis slapped me, I'm not gonna ever slap when I'm just being silly. I'm just being silly.
Somebody's asking, how old are you, Percy?
I am, in my mind, a very young 52.
Oh, really?
Yes, in my mind. My back might not tell me that when I wake up in the morning, but
I got a bad knee too. I be thinking, right? I don't look a day past 35.
Oh well, I might. So I'm coming back on the show next week.
Well, come on back, Percy. Come on back.
I'm coming back next week, but no, I'm fit. I just turned 52 in February.
Oh wow, you look amazing. So, listen, are you married?
No, I'm not married. Okay. I am not married. I'll just say that.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that. I'm not married.
Now, not for the ones that's looking for a date, but someone that's want mentoring, that wants to expand up on this conversation that we've had tonight. How can they get in touch with Mr. Percy?
I'm easy. Again, I just got me some social media, so just DM.
Is it called excited.
DM? Is it called DM?
Yeah, they can slide in your DMs. Right. Percy.
Yeah. Just send me a message on Facebook, or is it Instabook, Facebook? Just being silly, but just send me a message.
Okay.
Yeah, is that simple. Yeah, okay. Just reach out. Just reach out. I'm not opposed to helping anybody. Okay. I mean, I think that along with love, I think that second piece is we don't support one another better. Mm-hmm. It don't hurt, or it's not that expensive to take 5-10 minutes out the day and say, well, young man, think about this, think about that. That don't cost me anything.
Melissa, I think we found you somebody.
But so I think
her son needs a mentor.
Yeah, so I think leaning and coming from a space of love, but also again having in the most responsible way, because I know we're also busy. We also have jobs. We also have family. Mm-hmm. We also have kids, grandkids. We have things going on. But when you can take 10-15 minutes just to give back, right. You'd be surprised how much of a difference you can make in a person's life just by something as small as you see somebody in the grocery store and smiling, just saying hi. Those little things mean a lot. And those little things are the building blocks that become bigger.
You're absolutely correct. So, yeah. Percy, it has been my honor.
Well, thank you so much.
To have you here.
Thank you so much.
And anytime your organization puts on something, please make sure to include ATN News Media.
I will. I definitely will.
We would love. From what I can see, we've got wonderful feedback.
Okay, that's good.
And we definitely want to keep following you around the city of Flint.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Sharing the information and keep turning lemons into lemonade.
Yes, ma'am. Here. I definitely will not stop. You and Mickey, it's been a ball today, and I'm so modestly appreciative that we had good responses from our audience. There are some really cool events coming up from the summer. I'm always the type, I don't share things until they are etched in stone. Okay. But the community be very, very excited. We have some very, very, very cool things happening coming June, July, and August.
We got anything coming up sooner than that it's already on the books?
Let me look at the calendar, but okay. I'm sure there probably is.
Okay, well, make sure you let us know, and we'll let our listening audience know.
I appreciate you.
And then, our personal invite.
Definitely.
Well, thank you, Percy, so much. And thank everyone for tuning in. Next week, we will have Minister Troy Muhammad. He will be back in the building giving us some more community advice.
Yes, we love Troy.
We love Troy up here. And always tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., don't forget to tune into The Bump. We'll be back bumping me and Mickey live. And thank you all for joining tonight. And any last words to our viewers, Percy?
Oh, I'll say it again. I'm a Flintstone, the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. I love my community. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wyntis.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.